everyone. Welcome to the podcast. We are recording in the Red Stick Spice Company Test Kitchen, one of my favorite places in the world. And given our intro, you realize that we are today talking about chicken. And my guest is absolutely perfectly suited for this subject. I'm joined by Galen Iverstine with Iverstine Farms Butcher. Welcome, Galen.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is fun. I'm so excited that you were here. You know, when I was thinking about this episode and planning this episode, I considered naming it Tastes Like Chicken, you know, the old joke. But really, there are a couple of episodes. This is one that's included in that group that I want to give the theme of knock it off, like things I wish cooks would stop doing, like store-bought chicken stock.
Right.
Let's all realize we can all make a chicken stock or a vegetable stock. And another thing I'd like people to knock it off is boneless, skinless chicken breasts.
Amen.
So we're going to be talking a lot about that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about Iverstines, and I want you to take us back to the beginning, take us to the farm, and tell us how you got from there to being Baton Rouge's premier butcher.
Sure. Yeah. I'll do the Cliff Notes version because it's pretty long. But basically, I started out as a senior in political science, struggling with the same question that every liberal arts major has, and that's what do I do now? And from there, kind of went down rabbit holes of what was I going to do after school. And in one of the classes I was in, we were studying a lot about food policy, how food policy is written, particularly the Farm Bill and things like that. And while I should have been writing papers, I was going down YouTube rabbit holes of alternative methods of farming. What are some alternative methods of how food gets to the table? And
can I ask, if it's okay, what time frame are we? What year
this
was that?
This is 2008.
Okay.
2008, 2009.
Okay. So we are in that mode in the food world. We are really Mark Bittman and all those folks.
Michael Pollan just wrote Omnivore's Dilemma. Animal Vegetable Miracle just came out. So there's a lot of traction nationally, not really in Baton Rouge so much, but nationally everybody's catching on to the farm to fork movement. And it's really gaining traction. And I decided I was going to go into farming. I don't have a background in farming. My family is 2 generations removed from the farm. And I went and worked on someone else's farm in New Hampshire and convinced my dad he needed to buy 65 acres up in Kentwood to farm with me.
Oh my goodness.
So,
all this time, I thought you grew up on a farm.
First generation farm.
Wow.
So I went and worked on someone else's farm first, came back to Baton Rouge, to Kentwood. We bought land in Kentwood. We needed to be, a rural area for land to be affordable. I studied a lot of a farmer named Joel Salatin, who's up in Swope, Virginia, who is kind of the godfather of pasture-based livestock. And I knew the benefit of being a first-generation farmer is I had a clean slate. I could do things how I wanted. I didn't have the previous generation telling me this is how the farm needs to be run.
Right.
On the downside of that, you're starting a farm. Capital's hard to find, that whole bit. So we started very small. We started with chickens and hogs, and the basis of our farm is pasture-based livestock using strategic animal impact to improve the quality of our topsoils.
Okay.
That's the center point of what we do, and from that we're producing really tasty food.
Okay. So help us out with some terminology. Cage-free, grass-fed, and then the term you just used is
pasture-based.
Okay.
So big ag has caught on to what's going on with people's preferences for food and have watered down or bastardized what cage-free means and what organic means and what free-range means.
Okay.
So you could buy a carton of eggs that says it's a cage-free hen, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not in a house with 30,000 other chickens.
Okay.
So really what we're getting at, our chickens are raised on pasture, moved to fresh pasture every day to where they're able to get a good variety to their diet. We're using what the industry sees as a downside of the chicken industry, manure, as a positive. So we're having those chickens spread organic fertilizer on our pastures, which produces healthier grasses, more lush pastures, and then we come behind those chickens and graze with our cattle.
Okay.
So that's kind of everything on our farm basically has a role in improving the topsoil of our farm.
Okay.
So we started real small, couple hundred chickens, couple pigs, and hit a couple of restaurants here in town, and Jubin's was my first customer.
Yeah.
And then we started going to the farmer's market in 2011. So 2011 was our first year at the farmer's market, and basically doubled every year. Pardon the pun, but we grew organically. We allowed the market to dictate how we were going to grow our farm. Mm-hmm. So we started out with 65 acres. Every year we grew, and then about 2013, 14, we had the idea of what if we had a retail shop,
right?
And grow on those farmers market customers, take that and have a 7-day-a-week retail butcher shop, kind of an old school butcher shop that really Baton Rouge didn't have at the time. And we saw an opportunity to grow there, and it's really allowed our farm to grow a lot.
Yeah.
So now we're about 130 acres on the farm, and finishing out 7,000 chickens a year, 500 turkeys, 150 head of cattle. So we've grown incrementally, and we're kind of at a point now where what's next? So we're kind of maximizing our farm production and then seeing what's next from
right.
So
it's funny to hear this story because for years I was a little too late trying to get a turkey from you at Thanksgiving. Right. And you were out, and that was it. I couldn't get a turkey. And so while what was happening for you is that you were growing, and you were expanding over those years, but what you were doing was this social media term, FOMO. You were creating this fear of missing out, where by the next year I was like, I'm getting a turkey.
Yeah.
Like, this is happening.
We have people calling us in July. It's like, are you taking orders yet? Are you make sure I don't miss my turkey?
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that was just making sure we're not sitting on a bunch of inventory. When it's your first year into a market or your second year, you'd hate to be sitting on 300 turkeys come January, because nobody eats turkey in January.
Right.
So we just wanted to make sure we were being smart about it. We should eat turkey year round.
All year long.
So, but yeah, that's kind of the genesis of how we got to the butcher shop now, and we opened there in October of 2016. So we're coming up on 2 years there.
Well, and I had the pleasure of having a tour of the entire butcher shop, and it's fascinating. I love what you guys are doing there. So kind of take us through a little walkthrough of the shop, if you would, so people can understand what you're able to accomplish. And I'm going to say a fairly compact, little site.
15 or 1,600 square feet. That's our footprint at the shop. So the retail portion of the shop is very intimate, not very big at all. But you walk in, we have a 12-foot fresh meat case, where on the bottom shelf you're going to have our three main proteins, which is our chicken, our pasture-based Berkshire hogs, and then 100% grass-fed beef cattle. Mm-hmm. So that's there, as well as a huge variety of smoked sausages, fresh sausages, your staple kind of Cajun meats like tassos, boudins, things like that.
And andouille.
All sorts of smoked items.
Yeah.
And then we also have a freezer, which is kind of a convenience freezer, little 1-pound packs of ground meat, pound packs of breakfast sausage, things like that you just need to have in your freezer for when you're in a pinch, you don't know what to make for dinner.
Right.
It's right there in your freezer, thaws real quick.
And I'm hesitant to mention this because I want it all for myself, but your chorizo is some of the best chorizo I've ever had.
Yeah, so I mean, and everything in our shop has just been, we weren't butchers before. We've been kind of an R&D cut room.
Oh, I love that.
So we're constantly, all right, yeah, we like this, but how do we make it better? So that's always on our mind. How do we improve the products that we're already making?
Right.
Because we didn't come from a background of sausage making. Mm-hmm. The first time I made sausage was 2 weeks before we opened the shop. And we've made a lot since then. So from the retail shop, or part of the shop, we have a big 4x5 glass window that looks right into the cut room.
Yeah.
That was really important for us to make sure people see a whole animal being butchered. Make sure they know we're not, when you say you want a lot of one cut, we're not going back there and opening a box and pulling out exactly what you need.
Right.
We are taking down a 250-pound quarter of beef and cutting that particular cutout for you.
Right.
So we want to make sure people kind of are making that connection of we're using whole animals, and people really enjoy seeing that and seeing the work going on in there. And that's a refrigerated room, so it's not time sensitive when we're working on a product. That was another thing we decided to do. It's 42 degrees in there, so when you see the guys back there with purple lips, that's why.
Right.
And then from there, you go into a hanging cooler where all of our sides of beef and pork are hanging. We have a chicken station where we have a table dedicated to breaking down chickens, and that's about a 16 by 16 hanging cooler. There's a rail and hooks where we can move animals around as we need to get to them. And then in the back is a big smokehouse where we can smoke, I think, 300 pounds of sausage at a time, and we have that thing going all the time. So when you walk in and there's a haze in the shop, believe me, that's hickory smoke that you're walking into.
Yeah. The day I was there, I think you were getting ready for a cochon de lait.
That's right. Yeah, we catered a wedding that day, I think, and we had a whole pig in the smokehouse.
Right.
So.
Well, when I think about that window and what people can see happening there, it factors into what I want to talk about today, which is sort of what's happened with our purchasing in this country and what you call convenience cuts, because, we were sort of joking about it in the opening, but our number one question is, what do I do to make boneless, skinless chicken breasts taste better? And I told you I was at a speaking engagement once and I answered the question a little snarkily, but my answer was, don't buy them. You know, a thigh with a bone and some skin is far more enjoyable, but not only is it more enjoyable and more tasty, it's a better way for us to consume those animals. So talk to us about your take on what's gone on with these convenience cuts.
Yeah, I mean, the supermarket is a relatively new concept. I think we're probably 50, 60 years of the grocery store where you can walk in and buy your toilet paper, your squash, and your chicken breast. I mean, that's very new considering we've been eating for how many years?
Right.
It depends on what you read. So millions of years, whatever.
Right.
So that is where the disconnects come from. Before, my grandparents' generation, they wanted chicken. They went in the backyard. They got the chicken, and they were having Sunday chicken with that.
Right.
With that chicken, and
Sure.
and they were going to use the whole thing because they saw that thing get processed, and they realized those two chicken breasts are attached to two thighs and two legs and two wings and a back. So what are you going to do without that? You're not going to waste it.
Right.
So now people walk into a grocery store and they see a sea of pretty little cellophane packed styrofoam things that have two chicken breasts in it.
Right.
And don't have to think about what is happening to the rest of that chicken. If I'm not buying the thighs, what's happening to them? Where are they going? Are they going in the trash? Because that's not a sustainable business model. So, I mean, and I'm honest with customers when they come in and they order, if they come in and they order 10 chicken breasts, I say, well, what are you doing with them? And a lot of times somebody is going to a crock pot and doing prepped meals. And I'm like, whoa, that's the worst thing you can put in a crock pot is a chicken breast.
Right. Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm charging you for chicken breast for the fact that if I have to throw the rest of that chicken away, it's got to be paid for with the chicken breast. So let me save you a little bit of money, and let's look at what can we do with a half a chicken or a whole chicken and get a little more distance out of your food dollar.
Right.
And, we can eat better meats if we eat them smartly. Paying $8 a pound for chicken breast, which is what you're going to pay for them at my shop, versus getting a whole chicken for $4 a pound and maybe eating on it for 3 nights.
Right.
I mean, that just makes way more sense. But unfortunately, people don't think that way because they're not faced with that decision every day.
Right. Right.
So that we like having those conversations with people.
Yeah.
If they come in, same thing with, let's say, a pork shoulder. They come in, I want a 2-pound pork shoulder. That's not a practical thing to cut from a pork shoulder. So what are you doing with it? Let's see what else I have here that may be cheaper and just be a better cut for what you're trying to do. So that's what we try to do mostly at our shop.
Do you find most folks are open to what you're suggesting?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Mostly, especially if we're steering them to a cut that is going to be just generally better for what they're doing.
Yeah.
But still, some people are dead set on following whatever recipe told them to do that online blindly and sticking with it. And hey, we'll gladly do it. We just want to make sure they know they have the option.
Right.
So,
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. What would you say is the one key takeaway here?
have an open mind. You know, if you come in with a very particular thing in mind, we may be out of it. That's just the reality of how our shop operates. There's only 3 or 4 pounds of tenderloin on a 700 or on a 350 pound side of beef. Mm-hmm. So when it's gone, it's gone. I can't go open up a box and grab you another one. So if you come in and you and your wife want fillets for dinner, right, I might be out of fillets. Mm-hmm. But be open to what else we have in the case. You know, and maybe something you've never heard of. Be a little adventurous when you eat. Just kind of studying other cultures, the way they eat. America has sacrificed tenderness for flavor. Everywhere else around the globe, they're willing to chew a little bit. And when you're willing to chew a little bit and cook a little slower, you're going to end up with better flavors. So we encourage people just to come in with an open mind. I understand if you need a particular cut for a particular thing, but if it's just a Wednesday and you're looking to cook dinner, have an open mind. Come in and try something new.
Well, Galen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Tell folks how they can find you.
You can find us on Instagram at Iverstine Farms, as well as on our website at www.iverstinefarms or iverstinefarmsbutcher.com. Really great website with a lot of information, animal diagrams that'll kind of give you an idea of different cuts that you can get in our shop.
Okay. Thanks again. We'll see you in the shop.